Be with you, and good to see all of you. We miss those that we've known in the past that are not here. Brother Cooper's parents. In fact, Brother Cooper, you were talking about being with us for a long time, and you have, I think, about 25 years. We went to Africa the first time, Barbara and I believe, in 2000. And I'll tell you how we got the connection right quick. We didn't have all of our support. I was with another work, you remember. Brother Beasley called Brother Hugh Cooper and said, Brother Cooper, got a new couple going to Africa for us. We don't hardly have all of our support. Would y'all be in a position to help us? And Brother Hugh, as I remember, said, we have some funds that came in, especially for mission work, and said we could help for a year and for a year only. And that got us started. And from that, we have been able to carry on our work, and appreciate again the fact that we've had a long relationship and a good relationship, for which we're very grateful. And again, good to see all of you. I'm going to see if this works. I don't know how to operate heavy equipment, so.
Maybe off. Yeah, it is. There you go.
Which one?
This one right here advances. The other one goes back.
Okay, thank you. All right, appreciate it. All right. I want to be sure we've got the right. We do. Okay. I wanted us to begin our presentation with this particular scene and thought. Brother Cooper mentioned that not only have we been associated with you folks for a long time, and we have, but he mentioned also that our work has been a very productive work. The Lord has added His blessings, brethren, to our efforts. And when I say our efforts, I'm talking about this congregation and all that are involved with us. And Brother Cooper, I too appreciate the fact that this congregation is and has been for a long time, as far as I know, always been involved in mission work, not only abroad, but locally. But I wanted to begin with this scene up Calvary's Hill. You know, when I think of that, brethren, that just really kind of sends chills up my spine. And to know that that day, a day like today, for as we're concerned to an extent, our Savior, who came from eternity, went up Calvary's Hill that day for everyone here. And not only just for everyone in this assembly today, but for the whole world. And that just really does something to us when we really think about that, something that we ourselves could not do. So He bore it all. He took our sins with Him that day on Calvary's Hill. And we'll talk about that maybe more a little bit next hour. 8 billion souls and more on the face of God's earth today. That's a lot of people. Do you realize that perhaps the majority of people on earth today have never heard of Jesus, never had a Bible in their own language, don't know of the real church for which Jesus died? But according to Romans chapter 1, verse 20, even though they've never had a Bible, they've never known of Jesus, they don't know of Christ and Christianity, but one day they too will stand before God in judgment. For the invisible things of Him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even His eternal power and Godhead, so they are not without excuse. They'll be judged according to what they know, but they'll stand there before God to be judged. The problem with that, brethren, is this. They may can stand there, and we hope and pray not, And they may stand there and say, yes, but we didn't know because you didn't go. And we're grateful and we're thankful that you, all of you, are part of this. We're all together in going into all the world and preach the gospel. Jesus said, go into all the world. We know that. Preach the gospel, baptize, and then teach. Our emphasis at World Mission Radio is to preach the gospel. I've said this several times here. Our emphasis is to teach the Word of God, to baptize, and to teach. I'm afraid that oftentimes we do the first two parts. We teach, we baptize, but we don't have a good follow-up program. And I'll talk about our follow-up program a little bit more in just a moment. But brethren, that's an integral part of the Great Commission. If we don't follow up with the teaching, we haven't finished the Great Commission charge or command. Oftentimes we leave them, as I say, to die dripping wet on the side of the baptistry, and we never take it past that. So we try to do our best as much as we can to see that that doesn't happen. Today I want to tell you a little bit, Brother Cooper, and I appreciate your remarks. I want to give you a little bit of the history of this work, kind of bring you from where it started and where we are today. And that'll probably help us to see, Brother Cooper, a little bit of the success that we have been able to have, and we give the Lord the credit for all of that, not we ourselves. But to this date, as far as we have been able to determine, at least what's been reported, we have had reported 587 baptisms this year. Last year we had an average of 100 baptisms per month. This year so far we're not averaging that much or that many yet. But that, brethren, is about two, if my math is right, about 2 conversions per day, 7 days a week, somewhere in the world, okay? Radio, which we'll talk about in just a moment, but radio is a big part of that. A lot of our effort, in radio especially, and even in all of our effort, is East Africa, which is Kenya, Tanzania, they say, down in Malawi, Uganda, Zambia, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Madagascar. All of that part of East Africa is a great part of the area where we do a lot of our work, and through radio. I want to talk about radio for just a moment. People here a lot of times do not know that radio is one of the most effective means in the mission field that you can have. I've always said if I were an elder helping send someone to a mission field, one of the first things I would try to arrange, if possible, is a good local radio program. But I want to say something else about radio. You need to know how to do radio. We have a lot of brethren, no doubt, doing radio, but in my judgment, they're not getting the real results and response from their programs that they should be getting. It works here locally. It'll work anywhere. And we'll talk about that if we have a chance a little bit more. About 600 million East Africans are under the voice, if you please, of our radio programs from different places there in East Africa. Someone said that's about 1/6 of the world population just in that area that we're broadcasting in. This is a new work, a new effort in a way. This is Brother Daniel Mpoke. He lives in southern part of Kenya. He's a Maasai. I was telling some of the people here just a few moments before service. I met Brother Daniel early on in our work, probably 21 or 22, 2021, 22, somewhere in there. He had a brother, and I think I've shared this with you, but he had a brother who was really a great evangelist, a great preacher, Brother Benson. Brother Benson had left the Maasai tribe, went to Nairobi to one of our training schools there, spent a year or so there. He went back to Narok, which is the closest town to where the Maasai are, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a moment. But he went back to help advertise for some evangelistic work that they were doing in town. Brother Benson and maybe some others were out putting up posters advertising the meetings. You may have remembered me telling you this story. Brother Benson was tacking up a poster on a telephone post, or light post rather, and a drunken policeman, and that's not too unusual there, was supposedly chasing a guy that he thought had stolen a bag of charcoal. He shot Brother Benson in the back and killed him while he was nailing up that poster for the advertising that meeting. Well, after that, his brother Daniel took the reins, and we hadn't really been that involved with Brother Daniel all these years, but recently we have really got Brother Benson involved with us in the work. In fact, this very moment, as far as I know, he and 2 or 3 of the other brethren are about 4 or 5 hours away from from the closest town, which is Narok in Kenya, doing evangelistic work, following up on some contacts from one of our radio programs that Brother Benson does. He does a weekly radio program for us. They are meeting with, I think he said, 25 people from that area that have been listening to our radio program and had contacted Brother Benson to come and help instruct them further in the truth. Part of this group that you see here that's wading in the water to be baptized was another group that Brother Benson and others followed up on from our radio program again. And there were 37 that were baptized that you can see in the line up there in the water waiting to be baptized. 37 from that contact. And these people were from different, and this is amazing, from different denominational groups that had contacted Brother Daniel and asked that they come and help teach them the truth in regards to the one true church. The reason I think that our radio program is so effective, and because we get such response, is the format. And I've helped to form the format in all of these programs, but we usually have about a 30-minute program. Now, where the Brother Lawrence is, we have an hour-long program, but at the end of our programs, we have about 10 or 15 minutes or so, depending on the length of the airtime program, but we have time dedicated for people to respond, to call in their questions or comments or whatever concerns, and that's where we get most of our leads and contacts, is because we give the listening audience an opportunity to call in, and they call in just continuously every radio program. Brother Benson said they had about 30-something in this group from different denominational groups that had called in, 25 in the area now. And I got a text from Brother Benson just last day or two. He said it took them about 4.5 hours from the closest town, Narok, where he's stationed here, to get to where these people are that he's studying with even this hour. So Brother Benson is doing a tremendously good job. Got a problem. I don't have support for Brother Benson. Brother Benson, I support the radio program. We do, World Mission Radio does. We support most of the time the mission efforts like this, but Brother Benson needs support drastically, urgently. And we'll talk about that maybe again. This again is some of the group that Brother Benson baptized out of the 37. Hopefully next week we'll have another report. Brother Benson says he's sure that he'll have at least 25 others from this new study group. I've said that, brethren, to say this, that this is how we do our follow-up program. Brother Lawrence and others that are involved in radio, they can't get to all of the responses that we have from our radio programs. A lot of that also, I might say, has to do with the area where you're broadcasting. There are a lot of areas of the world where you don't get that kind of response, and we understand that. But in third world countries, which is where we're broadcasting mainly, you will get a lot of response to your radio programs if you have the right format. Brother Benson just sent me this picture just yesterday, I think it was, and these are Maasai. Uh-oh, I done messed up somewhere or another, Chris. Let's see, can I take it off here? I can't. What do you do next? Help. Told you I didn't know anything about heavy equipment. New external device is connected. Do you want to enjoy this? No. Push no. Sorry, folks. Give me a minute. There you go. There you go. All right. You may have seen the Maasai group on television and so forth. They're a nomadic tribe like Abraham. A lot of times they move from place to place. They are herdsmen. They don't grow gardens or crops and so forth. And their main diet, by the way, is milk and blood. Now, I know that kind of sounds repulsive, but they take milk from the cow and blood from cows or whatever, and they mix it kind of like a milkshake. And that's their main staple every day. Barb and I have visited the Maasai on different occasions, and where Brother Benson's tribe is, from the nearest city, the nearest town really, when we first went there, it was an hour-and-a-half drive from the nearest town to where Brother Benson and his local people live. Just cross the plains. No road, no electric when we got there, nothing. But today, they have a road. It's not tarmac or paved. They have a road, they have electric, and believe it or not, they have some limited internet. So Brother Benson sometimes is able to correspond with me by internet. But these are some of the 25 that Brother Benson and our other brethren are studying the Bible with this very moment, perhaps. Now, wouldn't it be wonderful, brethren, if we look in the face of these people here, the men there, and know that someday they perhaps will be able to live in all eternity with us because you, as a congregation, helped to take the gospel to those wonderful people. This is down in Malawi. We've been doing a lot of work in Malawi since Barbara and I started work in Africa 25 years ago. We haven't been that involved the last 2 years or so because Brother O.J. Magasso, who was one of our main co-workers there, passed away a year or so ago. But I knew a guy there who worked with us. He wasn't necessarily associated with our work, but we worked with him a lot, by the name of Lifa Banda. I don't think I have a picture here of him, but this is a work of Brother Banda. Brother Banda had just recently joined our team again, World Mission Radio, and he is the second one that doesn't have support. I asked Brother Lifa if he would join the team because we needed a good worker. He's been in the church for many, many years. He was a good, sound gospel preacher. He's very evangelistic. And so I asked Brother Lifa if he would join our effort again, and I would go to work at trying to help raise his monthly support. So we're trying to find support for these two brethren. This is just another one of the scenes there, one of the church buildings. This is just a common scene. You see the lady there walking with the container on her head. Of course, that's Africa, and that's just normal. I want to sidetrack just a moment. Barbara and I were here in Malawi several years ago, and we attended a congregation, went to a congregation that we had not been there before. In fact, it just so happened where we were staying at a little hotel-like place, room and board type place, one of the guys working there was a member of the church. Had never met him, he didn't know us, but when we registered, signed in, we put on there Church of Christ. He saw that, and he came to me, and he said, "You're members of the Church of Christ?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "We are too." Well, anyway, long story short, we arranged to go to church with him, not in this building, but this reminded me of that. we'd arranged for he and his wife to come by and pick us up and take us to church that Sunday morning, and he did. While I was speaking, it was so incredible. There was a little boy about this high, little African boy. Barbara was sitting over here kind of by herself on mud benches. You've never seen a mud bench, but these were mud benches. Barbara was sitting there, and all of a sudden this little guy about this high came down and just sat down by Barbara, just like he was mother or grandmother. Sweetest little thing you've ever seen. His dad had passed away. He had been a member of the Lord's church, as I recall. This little boy had to walk some distance to come to this church by himself. His mother wouldn't come with him. Somebody asked him one day, said, "Why don't you go to a church down near where you live?" He said, "I've got to go to my daddy's church." And that was the example that his dad left on this little boy, probably about 6 or 8 years old. He would refuse to go to a denominational church closer to home because he said, "I've got to go to my daddy's church." Sweet story. Wonderful events. This is Brother Stevens, the northern part of Kenya, near South Sudan. We do a lot of work up in there. Brother Stevens and his son Joseph, who's a married man also, do a great work. Brother Joseph, Brother Stephen's son, has a great jail ministry up there. But Brother Stephen works among the Kopot tribe, way out in the no man's land. We've established 2 or 3 good congregations out there. And right now, Brother Joseph has sent me, Brother Stevens has sent me another text. Said, "Brother Jones, I'm ready to go back and teach again and baptize more people and follow up on the work there. Just send me, they call it transport. Send me transport, and I'm ready to go." So tomorrow sometime, I'll try to send him. I usually send him about $100 or $150, and he goes and stays 4 or 5 days or however, and continues to teach and continues to baptize people. And this is Brother Stevens at one of the hotels somewhere, I'm assuming, that's baptizing one of the ladies there. This is the congregation. I'll tell you about this in just a second, but this is the congregation where Brother Lawrence is at the orphan home. After giving this some thought, and due to the fact that some things have changed over the years, we had never had a gospel meeting, what we call a gospel meeting. And the reason we didn't have facilities. And I said to Brother Lawrence, maybe a year ago or less, I said, "Brother Lawrence, we need to have a gospel meeting." He didn't know what a gospel meeting was. So I explained to him, "Brother Lawrence, here's what you do in a gospel meeting. First of all, you have to make a lot of preparation, a lot of plans. You have to advertise. You have to do the whole thing." And I went through all that, sent him all the information. And we had our first gospel meeting. This is in the new auditorium. You'll see the building in a few minutes. But as a result, the building was overflowing at every service. Okay? And it was like a 4 or 5 day or more gospel meeting every night, just like we have here at night. Okay? They also had a sign-up sheet table set up in the back. I said, "Brother Lawrence, you need to have these tables set up. You need to have literature, information to hand out. You also need to have people greeting the people that come in," because I knew we'd have a lot of visitors. When people come in, greet the people, get their names, addresses, phone numbers, and so forth. Those are contacts. Brother Lawrence and him did a wonderful job. And I think, and don't hold me to this, but I think it was 30-something baptisms that we had from this one gospel meeting. We are making plans and preparations, I think, in December for another gospel meeting there. Also, and I'll talk about this maybe in a moment when I get to Brother Richard's area and work, but now there we have also electric and so forth, and we'll be planning a gospel meeting there and probably down where Brother Daniel is. This is a picture of most of our little orphan children there at Brother Lawrence's. Sweet, sweet little children. The lady in the green at the top, you might can see, is Sister Rose. We pay Sister Rose $100 a month to help Brother Lawrence, and she does a tremendously good job. She does all the cooking practically. Of course, some of the older girls help. She does the laundry and all that, plus tends to the children. She has a heavy burden. Of course, you know Brother Lawrence's wife passed away some time ago. We'll talk about that in a moment. But these are our children for the most part. Let me mention also here, and I said to Brother Lawrence last 2 or 3 days, I said, Brother Lawrence, when you have a chance, and if it's possible, I want you to get the present orphan children and those who have gone through the orphan home. I want you to get them back if you can as a group, and let's have a picture of all of them. He said, I can do that. Brethren, we have a lot of, several at least, not a lot, several of men, for example, who've gone through the home, faithful Christians at this time. One is an accountant that I know of. One of them has his own business. So we have done a great job, in my judgment, in helping to train these people from youth up, a lot of them, okay? See what we got next here. These are some equipment and things that we've been able recently to purchase for the home. You know, we finished our new building. You'll see a picture of that in a moment. We finished our new building a year or so ago, but we've been little by little trying to furnish the building in certain areas. The bottom picture there is a picture of the kitchen. Now, you can't imagine, and I can't show you. I started to, and I thought, well, I better not do that. If you could see how they were cooking, and still are to an extent, before we got them a modern kitchen, you would not believe. In a little tin building over an open fire, just really crude. And they still do some of their cooking outside there because they have to. But here's a new modern kitchen. We had an electrical storm there not long ago. We had bought a refrigerator back some time ago. In fact, several years ago, Barbara and I brought Brother Lawrence and Sister Juliana, at that time his wife, a new refrigerator. But we had an electrical storm that blew everything practically and blew the refrigerator. So we got them a new refrigerator, which is not pictured. In the top left corner there, we have a new gas top cooker that they can do a lot of their cooking on. And then the freezer. I don't think they bought the chest type freezer. I think they got an upright freezer, but we bought them all of that just recently, which has helped a lot. Here's another thing that we've done at home recently. Brother Lawrence was telling me back some time ago of this machine, we call it a grinder, that grinds corn. They call it maize. And so he said, Brother Jones, if we had a grinder, said we can grind our own meal for here at the orphans, and they use that, brethren, to make ugali. Ugali is nothing but boiled cornmeal with nothing added, has no flavor, no seasoning, and that's their main staple. In fact, my doctor has a daughter that's working in Kenya, and he just got back from over there, he and his family, and I was asking him about the ugali. I said, did you eat any ugali? He said, I did. I said, Dr. Buter, how in the world does that sustain those people? He said, I have no earthly idea. He says, nothing in it that would give them any nutrient, but that's what they do. But on the bottom picture are bags of corn that they have raised themselves. Brother Lawrence has rented about 2 or 3 acres of property, and the beans and the corn they have raised themselves. And they grind that there, and they also grind for the public some as they have opportunity to do so. Let me tell you how we got that grinder. I had a piece in our newsletter, not about the grinder, but about something else that we were needing funds for. Had a congregation that I've been sending the newsletter to for years, never heard from them. One of their elders picked up the phone and called me and said, Brother Jones, I see in your newsletter you have a need for something, whatever it was, I've forgotten. I said, well, I did, but we've already taken care of that, but I tell you what we do have. And I told him about the grinder. He said, how much do we need? I said, $2,000. He said, we'll send you a check. You never know. So that's how we were able to purchase the grinder. And it's going to be, and is a big benefit to us already. All right. I want to give you a little bit of the history of how this work, the orphan home, got started. Am I over time already? You got about 11 minutes. 11 minutes. You ring the bell. Here's how this work that the orphanage got started. It started under that tree. Brother Lawrence and mainly Sister Juliana, Brother Lawrence's wife at the time, great, great Christian woman. All these little children were just everywhere. First time I ever went there, I was walking through them like this, trying to keep from stepping on children almost. Orphans, street kids. I said to the guy that was with me, took me there, I said, Brother Vitalis, where do all these kids come from? He said, just around here. Where do they eat? Just wherever they can find something to eat. Where do they sleep? Laying around on the ground. Well, Sister Juliana, on her own, began taking care of about 4 or 5 of these little children under the tree. She just couldn't stand to see them, going hungry. She couldn't feed all of them, but she took about 5 of them, as I recall, and started feeding them and caring for them. Wasn't long until they took them in their house. That was their house. That's where Brother Lawrence and Sister Juliana lived at the time, and that's where they took those little 4 or 5 children in as orphans. About 2002, Barbara and I were helpful, and I guess a good part of raising funds to build this first building, the top right. It's still there. In fact, the bottom picture shows where we've just recently remodeled it. It's a nice building. The children now are able to use that building, used it for all these years until it really got so in disarray they couldn't. So we've gotten that, got a new roof put on it, painted inside and out, and got it refurbished and done. Going to be a big help. Here's the modern church building. The orphan building there that we've been able to build through the years. It took us about 7 years, 5 or 6 years at least, through 3 of the most crooked contractors you could ever deal with. And we'd go to lawyers, and we had about 2 or 3 crooked lawyers. We thought we had every hole in the dam punched. You can't do it. I guarantee you can't do it. But even with that, and you, brethren, have been a part, all of you have been a part, from the shade tree to this particular building and caring for these many wonderful children. That's just been a great, great work there to orphans. This is Sissy, Sister Clark, all of you, but this is Sissy. I'll not go back and tell you the whole story of Sissy. It had been a nightmare and still is to some extent. She was just real small, about, maybe 4 or 5. I don't think she's even 6 years old. She's about 12, a little older now. Still have some pretty major health issues, but due to a lot of your help and with the Lord's blessing and prayers, this is one little girl that we've really struggled to get to where she is, but she's doing good. She's in school, but still has some issues that we're having to deal with almost constantly. I got to tell you this story. This is one of our orphans, girls right here, the mother holding the baby. 17 years old. We're staying at a boarding high school. We don't have high school there to count. In fact, some of our orphans go to public school. She was at an orphan home, some distance away from where the orphan is. She was at a boarding school. She and I think maybe 2 or 3 other girls left the dormitory, went out to the restroom toilets, which is outside. 3 or 4 guys jumped them with knives, raped them, and she, of course, got pregnant. And that's been another big issue. But mother and baby are doing good. They're back at the orphan home, living there. Brother Lawrence and Sister Rose and several of the ladies there in the congregation are helping care for Sunila and Derek. So keep these people in your prayers, if you will. This is the Mount Sinai Christian Camp and Academy. This was a youth rally that Brother Richard and them held there not too long ago, maybe January or so, I think it was. Had 220 young adults attend about 4 or 5 days there at the Christian Camp and Academy. And I think there were about 30 baptisms. He said most of these young people had already been baptized because they'd been there before, but they still had about 30 different baptisms there. This was what was there, brethren, when we went. The first time I ever went there, it's out in the bush. The government had given schools and churches in that area a plot. The brethren there Brother Moses was one of the leaders. He's passed away now. But the government gave them 5 acres way out there in the forest, kindly. And when I saw that standing from the little back road that went through that property then, no road much at all, I saw that property and I saw the beauty of it. And I said, Brother Cooper, I didn't say Brother Cooper, but I said this would be a tremendous place for a Christian camp. They had never heard of a Christian camp, didn't know what it was. Anyway, from that point on, make a long story short, we started. That little building is not there, of course, and they really repaired it after that, and I've got a better picture of that, but I wanted you to see what it looked like. But that's what it looked like the first time I ever saw this piece of property. But I had a vision, and the Lord did too, I think. And so from that, this was our first meeting. After that visit there, the brethren organized, and there's just where you see those trees, there's just a pretty good sized mound of dirt. They had already started calling that Mount Sinai. And so at Mount Sinai, they had put up a lean-to like. We held about a 4-day seminar there. Myself and some of the local brethren spoke for about 3 or 4 days, and that was the beginning of our work there. They already had a congregation there that had been established. Okay, all right. All right, this is one of the newer works that y'all are familiar with, the university congregation. I could tell you a lot about that. That's where we had the 300 baptisms last year. Most of them were college students. Many of them have already graduated and gone back home. And you know, you have to think about that. They were taught, they were baptized, they went back home just like they did in the book of Acts, and the gospel went everywhere through these 300 people, and there's still a lot of them there. But there was a group that Brother Lawrence brought to the camp, to the orphan home there in front of the orphan home. I'm going to tell you this right quick. If you look down front, there's a guy in kind of a checkered-like outfit, and I think that's his wife in the blue. He was a bishop, and he was there in town speaking with some political outfit or something. I'm not sure what it was. Brother Lawrence got in contact with him, or I don't know how it was arranged, but anyway, long story short, Brother Lawrence set up a Bible study with this guy, and I think his wife, and baptized both of them. And this guy has become a very, very strong gospel preacher, really, Christian at least, and doing all this, tending a good, strong congregation in Nairobi, doing a fantastic work for the Lord's church already. Just briefly, how that story played out. The needs for the orphan. We have been looking for and trying to get insurance on the orphan children for many years. Several of us here have talked about that, okay? It was just too expensive. Lo and behold, just a few months ago, the government decided, for whatever reason, I don't know, that they would furnish insurance for everybody up to a certain point. For $1,200 per year, not per child, $1,200 per year, we'll have insurance on 15 of all the children and Brother Lawrence there at the orphan home, okay? It doesn't cover doctor visits and things like that, but any hospital bill, if they're admitted in the hospital, and Brother Lawrence was just recently, as far as I know, paid every dime of his hospital bill. So that's one of the needs that we are looking to get. $1,200 a year, and that is absolutely a Lord-sent blessing if we can do that. And then for an additional kitchen, I mentioned a while ago that they do some cooking outside. Due to the fact that they have such big containers to cook in for the orphans, they can't use those little burners that we were talking about. They've been using really just a little shack, as we would call it, but we need to build a new kitchen, kind of an offshoot of the main kitchen there, and have a place for them to cook. It'll be over a wood fire, but we'll build a stove. I know how to build them. We'll build about 2 or 3 stoves with a countertop over it, with smoke pipes going out the top, and have a better place for them to prepare that part of the food. We need $2,000 for that, and then additional support for those 2 preachers that I mentioned. And that's about my report, and I'm on time. Okay? To God be the glory. God be with you till we meet again. Brethren, thank you. I appreciate it. I hope this has helped. If you have any questions, any thoughts or concerns about the work or anything, be sure and talk to me after services. Brother Cooper.